checklist of the fire alarm. So I've actually already started it. You can see it's just here. So the certificate reference is today's date in 6 numbers, so 28th, 1st, 24, which is today's date, and 3 random numbers. Now, the extent of the liability of the signatory is limited to the system described below. Extent of the system covered by the certificate. Basically, how much of the system have you tested? Now, quite commonly you can put percentage, but you could also say whole building. If you did 100% in one visit, which would be a bit odd because you need to do 2 visits, so you might as well do 50-50. But you could do that if you wanted. You got 1st floor only, 2nd floor only, and zone 1 only, panel 1 only, so stuff like that. So it can be more than that, but typically I would just put in what I've tested in a percentage. But you don't have to do that. So variation recommendations, clause 45. So clause 45, it says let's read this out. Clause 45 states recommendations for inspection and test of the system over a 12-month period. In the first instance, multi-sensor detectors should be operated by a method that confirms the product combustion in the vicinity of the detector can reach the sensors and that a fire signal can be produced appropriate. So that says, read that again, multi-sensor detectors should be operated by a method that confirms that products of combustion in the vicinity of the detector can reach the sensors and that a fire signal can be produced. So I guess you just need to test all the detectors correctly with the smoke. It also says multi-sensor fire detector should be physically tested by a method that confirms that the products of combustion in the vicinity of the detector can reach the sensors and that the appropriate response is confirmed by the CIE, which is the panel basically. The CIE is the panel. I always forget what that acronym stands for. Control and indicating equipment. That's it. As well as that, so test every device. As well as that, on the 6 monthly test, you need to check the control panel functions, do a visual inspection of the building to identify layout or occupancy changes. And on the annual test, you need to make sure you do everything that 6 monthly needs, but also you make sure we've tested 100% of the detectors basically. So on the annual, we need to make sure if we tested 35% of the detectors on the 6 monthly, we'll need to make sure we test 65% this time. If you don't, you'll put it in this box, but you have to have a pretty good reason for it because we need to be tested 100%. It also says this ensures that they all still operate in accordance with manufacturer's recommendations. I mean, yeah, it is common for testing of detectors to be spread over 4 periodic visits and test 25% each visit. So I'm just reading that from this thing talking about clause 45. Yeah, we could do it over 4 visits, 25%. We could do it over 10 visits, 10%. But a lot of ones we do over 2 visits because of the size of them, 2 visits, and we do 50% each time. You can't do over 1 visit, which is really annoying. You could test all the detectors on 1 visit, but you need to have the 6 monthly to check the control panel and do a visual inspection of the building. So yeah, and the last thing it says, all tests and service visits should be recorded in the logbook. So yeah, that's important as well. So ignore the last bit I said about all test visits and recording the logbook. So just relating to this box, if there's anything that I said involving the 6 monthly test, control panel functions, visual inspection to identify the building, if you can't do any of that, if you can't get to 100% on the detectors, if you can't test them correctly for some reason, you put it in this box. So a lot of times this is going to be NA, but if it isn't, then yeah, we put it in here. So date of last visit. So date of last visit will be usually it's about 6 months. Now you can check by if I go out and I leave. If I leave a service visit, it will say that it will show, and I go back in, it will show the last service visit report. So you can see that now. That one's today because I did one earlier, but that is probably going to be the one that we last did 6 months ago. So that's helpful there. So, but if you don't know that, either ask the office or, I mean, it's almost certainly going to be 6 months ago if we were here last. So if we weren't, it's the first time we're maintaining it, we may not know this. So let's put that in 26th of the, oh sorry, it's the 28th, isn't it? 28th of the first, 24, 20 of the first, 23 even. But this will be 28th. So this is next service visit, so that'll be in 6 months' time. We'll do the 6 monthly. So this is basically the, let's class this as the annual So the last service visit was a 6 monthly, the next service visit will be a 6 monthly, but then the one after that will be the annual again. So relevant details of work carried out and faults identified have been entered into the system logbook. Yes, so we need to make sure that the system logbook is being used correctly. So at a minimum, you'll have to have weekly user testing, which means they go around every call, not every call point, they do one call point and test the whole fire alarm off. So you've got 5 call points, they do call point 1 first week, the second week they do call point 2, second week, the third week call point 3, fourth week call point 4, fifth week call point 5, and on week 6 they go back to call point 1 and do it on a rotation. So as a minimum you should see that in the user logbook. If you don't, then they're not using it correctly. Ask them, do you know how to use this? If you know how to use this, I'm more than happy for you to train them up on it. That would be great. Besides the point, even if you know how to use it and you can train them, or you don't, in both instances, I want you to tell me that they aren't using it correctly. Because what I'll do is I'll send I've got a user guide. I can send them by email because I want proof that we've shown them how to use it, because it is part of the regs. So yeah, any situations they're not able to use the logbook correctly, feel free to show them how to, but make sure that you tell me and I can send them the logbook, the user guide, sorry, on how to use the logbook. So during the past 12 months, how many false alarms have occurred? So let's say one. All the logbook should include all false alarms in that. Also any work that's happened on the fire alarm, as well as the user testing. And it should also need to include this test. You need to call all professional tests, and including the one that we're doing right now. So make sure that when you see the logbook, because you've got to inspect the logbook on the day, make sure that they've got this test in as well, or you put it in for them. That's not usually what happens. So say there was one false alarm in the last 12 months. The above number of false alarms equates to how many false alarms per 100 automatic fire detectors per annum. So that means false alarms divided by number of detectors times by 100. So it's going to be a percentage. So 1 divided by number of detectors, let's say it's 10, which will equal 0.1. Times that by 100, that'll equal 10%. 10%. Okay, and then the following work/action is considered necessary. Now, any info relating to individual devices will be covered in tasks. Ignore that bit. Any info relating to individual devices will be covered in tasks. Tasks are rubbish, so ignore that. But what I want is a general overview in here. Okay, multiple smoke detectors, replacement, and installation of zone chat needed. For specifics, what I want you to do, because the tasks are awful, is there'll be specific WhatsApp groups now for jobs. I want you to add the specific WhatsApp groups. The information to the specific WhatsApp group. So what I want you to put is the identifier for the device. So say, fire alarm 1001 did not activate a panel. So say what device it is, what's wrong with it, and then say needs replacement, and say what you need to do. So those 3 things. So with the emergency light, say EM light 9 failed 3-hour test, needs replacement. EM light 10 not charging, needs fault finding, possible replacement. So I can quote, do it in a way so you think that even if you weren't in the office with me, I would probably be able to quote 90% of it, just by looking at that list. And then maybe I have to give you one call and say, do you think the device 10 or whatever is the one that was not charging? How long is it going to take to fault find it? How long is it going to take to replace the cable if we need to refeed it? Blah blah blah. But yeah, I'm hoping that I can do most of this without really getting you involved too much, because that saves on time. So yeah, that's it. That's the